Hello, gamers. This is Brian, and we have two announcements before we start this week. One is we do have a video version of this episode available on our Patreon at all tiers. You can get that at patreon.com/latenight. And the other is we have a beautiful, lovely Peaches and Lemons pin set, which is available at merch.latenight.com, and it is 10% off right now. To everybody, you don't even need a code. That's how generous we are. So go to merch.latenight.com to get your own little Peaches and Lemons pin set. And now, hey, enjoy the hell out of this show. So I forget, Paul. Are you in London, or where are you right now?
Just outside now. I live in a very exciting place called Harrow, and by exciting I mean tedious and slightly depressing on a regular basis.
But
there is a very posh school just over the way, where I believe folks like Benedict Cumberbatch went to. That kind of caliber of child. Yeah.
Actually, okay, so this is something I never, we left before our kid was, old enough to go to school.
Lucky?
I was actually kind of, I'd heard mixed things about London schools.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some great ones and some less great ones. What is the deal with uniforms and kids? Is that just are the fancier schools the uniforms? Do they all have to wear uniforms?
Yeah, when I was at school, I had a uniform, and I kept getting told off by the teachers because I would roll the sleeves of my blazer up to about here because I thought that looked cool.
Right.
No.
Well, it was the 80s.
90s, I'll have you know. All right, don't. Okay. I don't think. Yeah, I think I started my secondary school in about early 90s. Yeah. And so, I had the blazer. And back then, the whole thing was you were meant to be all uniform and tidy and everyone had the same thing. That's the whole point of it, I think, in school. It's a mental thing rather than anything else to kind of strip you down. Like a soldier's uniform, I guess, but for schools. Right. But when you get to a certain age, you start rebelling. So it's like you have a great big tie knot, an aggressively huge tie knot. Or like me, you roll your sleeves up and think you're in Miami Vice.
Turn your gain down just a touch more. It still looks like it's coming out a little hot.
I'm actually surprised this is picking up as well as it is.
It really is.
Wow.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to try with
there
this.
It is.
I think this is going to be better.
That's
and also,
perfect.
I forget how boomy I am.
Oh, well, notoriously, famously. Boomy.
Yeah. I have a very bassy tone to my voice.
It's lovely. You have a beautiful broadcaster voice.
It really is.
Thank you. And a sex chat line voice as well, so I can make my money in two different alleys.
That's right. Oh, okay. So I was talking or listening to someone talk about here in the States, we had what were referred to as 900 numbers. Right. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
I'm going to guess it's like party lines and things like that.
Yeah. So it was a thing. Leighton, are you old enough to know what these are?
No.
900 numbers? No. Do you have any idea what I'm... Wow. Is that really...
Are these
She's never had to dial a number in her life.
Yeah, that's right.
I am sick of the level of phone shaming I have experienced on this show, Paul. This isn't about you. It's just in the past month I've had multiple people be like, "You've never touched a phone before?" No, you're right. I haven't.
Sorry
actually
for being part of that
manually. No, it's okay. Now I feel bad.
Wait, hold on. Have you never dialed a rotary phone ever?
I mean it flea markets.
Wow.
Okay.
So I guess I really have no leg to stand on, but
you're not missing much, really, though.
I mean, no, that's true. It's not like it was fun. It was just, it was incredibly tedious and terrible because you have to wait for the thing to go all the way back.
Of course.
It's like dialing with an abacus.
What I was going to ask, okay, so 900 numbers, what they were here is you would call them and then they would charge your phone bill it was some rate per minute.
Right.
So you call them and you don't give them a credit card necessarily, although some you did, I think. But a bunch of them, the charge would just show up on your phone bill.
Right.
And so it was very easy to rack up these crazy charge. It would notoriously, like, kids would call. I remember Alyssa Milano, the star of Who's the Boss.
Oh, kids would call her directly. That's
the
crazy.
Alyssa Milano hotline. I remember the promos. It's way cool.
Oh no.
Yeah.
For folks
And
who
not
are just
me.
listening, Brian did a very cheesy thumbs up. I don't know why I did a thumbs up to demonstrate to audio listeners
No,
that
you
that's
have
what
to.
you did.
I cringed so hard I nearly turned myself inside out.
It's
Spiritual
So did you guys have
declubbing.
some equivalent of that in the UK?
You know what? We did, but what was most, I guess, famous were, like, as you get older and you stay up later and you start watching late night TV, you start realizing there's more niche programming back up at that time of day. And so the phone numbers that kind of went out appealed to a very particular market, and that market seemed to be in the 90s gay male chat dating lines. And so it's funny how those numbers get burnt into your skin because of the advert slogans. So even in my head now, I can easily hear the 0891 50 50 50 with a kind of dance track behind it.
And that was a gay party line.
Yeah, and there was all these guys in the videos for the adverts who were like all in a group, but not close enough to be like properly interacting, but all doing their own separate things. So one would be like, you know, pumping an iron, and the other one would be like reading a book, and then the other one's looking at his watch. And it's like, oh, what an interesting mix of men you could be talking to.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there were a lot of like I think I vaguely remember some gay ones, but I remember a lot more like straight ones where it's like, these girls are waiting to talk to you, and it's a bunch of like
You did
women
that really well.
Thank you. I know what I'm doing.
You do. I got excited.
So it's like, you know, women lounging around in lingerie, you know, just kind of posing while the camera slowly pans over them.
Oh yeah, tell me more.
That sort of stuff. Yeah.
Go into a bit more detail, please.
No, I'll text you at our usual time.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll be up.
It'll go straight to your phone bill.
Yeah.
So it sounds like 900 lines walked so hot singles in your area could run.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is that still a thing? Hot singles in your area?
I don't know. I mean, if you go around London, you will still see phone boxes slathered with postcards for sex chat lines and things like that. So I'm sure it's still a thing in some respects, but maybe not in the familiar and innocent ways we remember it from the 90s.
Well, that's interesting to me. I wonder if it's okay in 2022. Who is someone that would call on the phone a chat line rather than use
this
the
conversation's
internet?
over. I'm off. How dare you, sir?
With you could probably spend less money and subscribe to like a bunch of people on OnlyFans, and then that's just the full frontal experience. You're not just talking to somebody on the phone.
Yeah, but is it a generational thing? Is that aimed at older people? Is it people who have like phone cards but not internet access? I wonder
guess so.
what that is, right?
Because I guess there's still going to be a market for it. So if people are still using the service, someone has to supply that service.
I mean,
sorry, hold on. I had to Google sex hotlines because I wanted to know if they're interactive.
Yeah.
What do you think is the first one that comes up?
Oh, okay. Let's see. You just Googled the phrase sex hotlines.
Right.
I'm going to guess it's MILF related.
Oh, that would have been my guess. But just for the sake of variety, I'm going to say dog.
All right. It's the Sex Addiction Hotline.
Oh.
Okay.
Provided by psychguides.com.
That makes
If
sense.
anybody's wondering,
Yeah, sure.
that number can be reached at 1-800-662-HELP.
But that's good. And a slightly anonymous number, you can call up and say, something's happened, help me.
Does it say hot sex addiction counselors are waiting to talk to you?
All right, sponsored 60 best phone sex numbers with free trials in 2022.
Wow. Yeah,
that would
tell
be
me.
a massive head fuck, though, if you call up and it's like, I've found this lump down there. And the person on the other end goes, tell me more about it. And you're thinking, wait, what's going on?
You know what? That I have to say, that, Paul, seems like, I think you're onto something here. because if you could combine some kind of telemedicine, telehealth, with, a sex chat line, yes, with erotica, you could. Well, first of all, it might be a public service, right? Because people who are otherwise unwilling to go to the doctor might want to talk to some hot docs in your area.
Yeah. Talk to hot docs about your troubling bladder condition.
1-800-HOT-DOCS.
I
think that's a winner.
I'm going to get a pen because this is gold.
I like that it's very close to 1-800-HOT-DOGS. And there might be some confusion.
Well, I think there's 1-800-HOT-DOCS, and then there is 1-800-HOT-DOGS, which is like, do you want to hear somebody seductively describe hot dog menus to you?
Right. Yes.
Or just sucking down some dogs.
Oh, God. I didn't know this was going to be such a racy show. Oh, I'm going to have to open a window.
We're barely 10 minutes in, yeah.
Also, it could, soften messages. You have only 7 weeks to live. Fine. All right. Thank you.
I think there was something like that. I think it was Mr. Show, where they got like 2 cute kids to deliver troubling medical news. That was the sketch.
Yeah.
And that was their thing. Well, the phone sex line actually made me think about also a Mr. Show sketch where Bob Odenkirk plays Peppermint, who is like a phone sex operator. And of course, the conceit of the sketch is this guy who sounds exactly like Bob Odenkirk, but does a slightly higher pitch voice. Hello, this is Peppermint, is stunningly erotic on the phone. And everybody he talks to is like into it. I'm sure this is out there somewhere. Early Bob what's better than early Bob Odenkirk?
I went to see him a few days ago doing a talk.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I bought the book. And did you get the book too?
Yeah, weirdly it came with a ticket for the show, so it was 2 for 1.
That's so great. And so to tell us about it, like, what was it?
He's apparently the loveliest man in the world, and it's annoying. It's just deeply annoying because like he's so self-deprecating in many respects. And I think he states numerously when he was doing the talk that he wants the book to be just about as much failure as it is success, because in a career like that you're going to see more failure than success. And so he kind of breaks it down. He tells us, he told a few anecdotes, and he talked about Nobody. Weirdly, not enough chat about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but it just felt like he was hyper focused on talking about his start and his troubles and his lax attitude to work and him trying to find his space and a voice. And so it's kind of really inspiring for a struggling comedian in his 40s to go, all right, I'll keep going then if he keeps going. It's that kind of weird thing.
Did he talk about the Mr. Show type era a lot?
Yeah. Because I wanted to ask him about Run, Ronnie, Run.
Yes.
Because that's just fascinating. I want to know more about how that all went to hell. But he did talk about it, but I think he was aware that in terms of like the UK audiences, they probably mostly know him from Breaking Bad, etc. Whereas there was a hardcore audience of people who knew about, all his small appearances on sitcoms, all the Saturday Night Live stuff he did. They knew about Mr. Show. They knew about the Ben Stiller show.
Ben Stiller show, yeah.
And he was also bigging up Tim and Eric a lot as well, talking about how he supported comedy and comedians like that to get a foot in the door. So
I mean, he was instrumental in Tim and Eric, right? Like he basically was the person. Well, I don't remember the details, but I remember him telling some story about they sent him a VHS and he watched it and he was like, "These are the guys," and then helped them. Maybe he was a producer on the show or something
like that. Yeah, because I like Tim and Eric, but I've always been a bit like I came at it the wrong direction. So I came at Tim and Eric through On Cinema with Greg Turkington, and then worked my way backwards.
Yes. Yeah.
Have I tickled your taste buds with that? Because that's my favourite thing in the whole world.
Oh, yes,
currently.
you have.
Oh, Paul.
Yay. You can go now, Brian.
Who's Oscar going to pick this year?
Well, it's going to be The Hobbit.
Of course. Again, I mean, after the devastating, Manx's devastating loss last year, I was never going to get over it. Yeah, I was too young to have been into Tim and Eric when it was on, and so grew up with the proliferation of all of the annoying quirks that people took from that. And so I find it unbearable. I think Tim is so fucking funny, but like on cinema is so just, I love to be handed a dense text and just that's so aggressively like, fuck you. I dare you to watch this. I dare you to sit through a 5-hour trial.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's such a fascinating show that when people say, well, where should I start? You go, oh, that's a really hard question. Do you start with an Oscar special to get them into it? Or do you say, just go to the very beginning of the series? Or do you say, find the podcast that they did and start there? Or
there's an On Cinema Timeline website where somebody very meticulously put together like every tweet, every video chronologically. But I think that's too intimidating. I think...
Yeah, and I know they released a book as well a few years ago, which I need to get my hands on.
And Mr. America... Like, I think you have to stress the importance of, like, don't skip the Oscar specials. They are, like, the season finales. It's the most important part of the show.
It's funny how they're kind of a season closer and they're also a season opener. How by the end, the status quo's change, and so you know kind of where they're going next. And I find that utterly beautiful, just in terms of how it's... I mean, the lore is dense because it's not just on cinema. It's like, well, then you have to watch Decca, and then you have to try and wrap your head around that. And then obviously the court case, which is, I think, one of the most brilliant pieces of comedy I've seen in years.
It's nothing makes me laugh like that trial does. I rewatched it so many times. It's just like pitch perfect, and I would die to see the behind the scenes on that shit.
Oh, for me, the golden moment, the bit where that sealed itself as a genuine classic was when they got Nicholas Meyer to turn up to talk about Star Trek. And the whole argument hinged around Star Trek 2 and 4. And that, to me, was like the ultimate callback and resolved perfectly for the sake of that court case and what it meant for the characters. And it's
Greg eating popcorn in the galley, Tim physically threatening Mark on the stand.
Mark Proch as well, who's just...
He's the best. Everything he does is funny. Did they come through when they did their live show? Did they come through the UK?
They did, but when I just didn't get to see it, unfortunately, because I was working, and it pains me to this day that I couldn't go.
Yeah, I saw the live show out here. Now I have not consumed the amount of it that you guys have, but the live show was incredibly funny, and just, I mean, you know, that audience is. It's such a niche thing with such passionate fans. It's a really fun group.
It's tricky though that
to be a part of,
because part of me thinks I'd love to see it live, and the other part of me thinks it might be obnoxious, like going to the Rocky Horror Picture Show screenings where it's like sounds fun, but these days it seems like the only people who are enjoying it are the ones on stage, and the audience get like the hard end of it. So I kind of feel like if I went to see that live, there'd be so many people in on the joke that they wouldn't let the show breathe and be itself because they want to preempt certain behaviors or gimmicks.
That was not the case.
Oh, okay.
I have to say, I think that is 100% the right concern. But in the show I saw was they were like, they let it breathe. They were trying a bunch of different stuff. It was genuinely funny. They did a bunch of different things from that universe. It was really, really great.
Yeah,
it's such a fascinating. They pretty much nailed it.
World that they've built, probably, you know, accidentally over the last like 9 years, or whatever they've been doing this. It's
it's just like a comedy lasagna. Like there are so many with the level of mass carnage and death that has occurred within the plot line at this point, where like Tom Cruise Jr. just feels like the first domino, but when it happens, it's like, what am I watching? And then that's the show. Like that's
and then like bringing him back as a CGI grown-up boy. You know, it's all those really dark turns, but it never feels like a dark show. It's such this. No. It's more like emotionally violent than it is outwardly dark.
Yes, that's so true. Yeah, it's just people who fucking hate each other so much.
So this is what I was going to ask. So occasionally, and maybe this is just the different fan bases. Every once in a while, you know, me being me, I will try some form of gentle antagonism with twerp, for
Right.
example, or other people in the NSP world.
Mm-hmm.
And so last year they booked me for, or maybe it's 2 years ago, they booked me for a cameo, and I did it was to promote the tour. We worked it out ahead of time, and I pretended to be annoyed by it, like I was picking up the phone in the middle of the night. Okay. And the overwhelming feedback that they and I got, we started like a little mini beef or whatever. Sorry, beef is an American delicacy, Paul.
Yeah, got it.
And the overwhelming reaction from fans was, "This sucks. I hate it when people fight.
Oh,
why? Why is this? Why is this funny? It just seems like you're antagonizing each other. I get that it's a joke, but I don't ever want to see this type of humor where people are like fake mad at each other." And so my question is, and it was not just one person. It was like most people.
Wow.
It was like back when I would still search late at night on Twitter that people would be like, yeah, I don't listen to Into Sex Party anymore because of Brian's whole fight with twerp. I thought it was really disgusting. It was like, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Some people said that.
Wow.
Yes.
Neat.
And I was like, wait. So from my perspective, look, I'll be the first to admit that there very, very rarely I try some comedy that isn't funny. It almost never happens. Most of my jokes, 99.9999%
It's a good
of the time,
hit rate. It really is.
Well, it's not even just hit; they destroy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? I mean, it's not just that they hit; they crush. So,
Do you need some
but
private time while you stroke yourself?
Is this?
Every
Did
once
we
in a
stumble
while.
into the 900 number here?
Yeah, that's right. Everyone, certainly half the stuff I try, at least, if I get one thing people enjoy, I'll be happy. But with this, I was shocked. I was like, not only, like, I understand not landing, but then trying something where people are like, this upsets me when it just baffled me.
I see that this fight is fake. Let me start a real fight because I'm mad that this fight is fake.
It's like
and I cannot
actualizing it in many respects. It's like it didn't exist, but now it does because of the reaction, and that's what I find really like the confliction there.
Yes.
Because I mean, for instance, I've got an example with that where I do my podcast, Cheap Show, and I do work with a guy called his name's Paul Rose, but he's been known since like the early 90s as Mr. Biffo because he used to write video games reviews for a service on TV called Teletext, which is a whole thing. So he does a channel called Digitizer, and we started doing crossover episodes. And because we're both inspired by On Cinema, we thought we'd try the whole Tim and Greg thing of being slightly antagonistic. Nothing too much. But I can't remember what the incident was now, but we did one tweet that was a reaction to an episode where I was treated badly. And so I reacted online as if I was outraged the episode went out because I was made to look like a fool. Things like that. And the feedback we got was so negative in terms of you're encouraging bullying, you're upsetting the audiences. Yeah, we got things like that. We got you splitting the audience up in the fan base, you're making people choose sides. And I was like, oh no, we thought it'd be the opposite and people would get it. And so we kind of pull back on that, or we go over the top with it so you can't possibly take it seriously.
But then people still take it seriously, even when it is extremely over the top.
But
I don't know what the difference is for On Cinema, though.
Yeah, that's exactly my... Is it that? So with On Cinema, typically, I mean, I would imagine demographically their fan base is a bit older.
Guys in their 30s, probably, in terms of all the On Cinema fans
older.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Guys in their 30s and up.
I do have a theory.
Yeah.
And I think the theory is because Greg Turkington and Tim Heidecker, in many respects, already exist as different personalities. No matter what version you see of them, there's a character version of them. So, like, there's the Tim Heidecker who does Tim and Eric. There's the Tim Heidecker who does On Cinema. There's the Tim Heidecker who does, like, weird cooking show where he's obsessed with mustard. There's the Tim Heidecker and the very serious stand-up. And then there's also the musician. And so there's all these different layers that I think he just shifts. And Greg Turkington is the same because he was known for, I knew I'd forget it now the minute I wanted to say it, The Lounge Singer.
Neil Hamburger.
Which, is another piece of genius. But I think it's because their audience know they can switch personalities, that they just know that this is the On Cinema version of these people. and they kind of roll with it. So it's like a hermetically sealed understanding of that universe. That's my theory.
Yeah,
I challenge you
both
to
of
present
them-
your own.
Both of them, I was going to say that both of them generally don't like engage in true out of character stuff. Like they do very little press for On Cinema, but also like Tim does Office Hours, which is it's bitty, but you know, it's not the full I am in character kind of move.
It's a little bit of everything, isn't it?
And when I look at the comments on cinema videos where everyone's like taking a hard side and getting in on the bit, I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. So is that though? But then the question with the whole, in my case, the one thing I can point to, that me twerp thing, is that a demographic thing, and it's just a different group of people who don't respond as well to that, or
is it because it's a slightly younger audience? Do you think is that?
Here's my theory. I think that we exist in an internet pop culture zone where people are really, really, really desperate for YouTuber dirt, or perhaps have predispositions against certain groups of people, and are so desperate for drama that when you hand them fake drama, they don't want it.
Yeah, maybe.
That's my take.
I just don't understand why people want drama at all. It's such a strange thing to put content out there, and it's one thing to have an arrogance to say, "Oh, this will fly," and this you take what I give you, but then there's a whole sense of I hope you like this, and when it comes back in the opposite way, you go, "Oh, what went wrong with that formula this week, or what went wrong with that particular idea?" It's so hard to put a finger on because you just don't know what the audience is going to be in the mood for, or what that audience is from project to project.
right.
Yeah, because it is such an invisible audience, and then also the nature of like the stuff that you see as feedback. There's that's like such a surface level of people, because when I think about the shows that I consume and like really, really love, I don't interact with that shit at all on social media. Like I'm not a commenter. I'm not like,
follow.
hey, this is
I
my
follow,
favorite. I just
yeah.
passively
That's it.
witness and monetarily support. So like the stuff that you actually do see is a subset of people who are willing to actively engage with media. And then there's also the subsection of that, people who are actively engaging in media that they hate, as is the internet.
And that's the internet lasagna.
And it also
is.
it does feel it's and many people smarter than myself have commented on this, in the type of humor that I grew up with, the real Gen X-y, snarky kind of type of thing. That was the default mode, is the like kind of aggressive. It's not like, it wasn't like bro-y aggressive, although that certainly was part of it. It was that like detached, snarky, sarcastic kind of thing. And that started to really shift away from that, probably, maybe early 2000s. I feel like it started to really get away from that, and goofy, silly, like the Apatow kind of stuff started to take over, and it became that much, much broader thing again, which of course, everything comes in waves. That was popular a while back.
Yeah.
But it felt like people were moving away from the ironic detachment kind of thing and into the silly Apatovian.
Which is good, but
humor.
unfortunately, I think most comedy these days seems to feel like it's just reference comedy. Like what seems to be popular is that point and look at that. Do you remember that? Isn't that funny? Let's move on. It's just, and it's like it's everywhere now. Where it's like, I don't think I've seen a film. I mean, I've not seen many films recently, to be fair, because time. But the ones I have seen have always been like multiverse and Easter eggs to that thing from the past, or do you remember that reference? Or look, here the Droogs from Clockwork Orange cheering on Bugs Bunny in Space Jam. It's so built on what we remember now. I just find that bizarre.
I have to say, one thing I've been watching recently, which is, it's not quite a comedy, but it's not a comedy, is this, I talked about this on the show a few weeks ago, this new show Severance.
Okay.
On HBO. Do you know what this is, Paul?
I know of it. It's one of the many things I have yet to watch, including my graduation video. So I'm going to catch up eventually.
It's really, really great, and it's very funny. I mean, it's got Adam Scott, John Turturro, Zach Cherry, Patricia Arquette, Christopher. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to spoil this. If you haven't seen this show, skip the next 10 seconds. If you want to see Christopher Walken and John Turturro have a burgeoning office relationship, this is the show for you. They are like into each other in a very sweet way, and it's pretty great. Just two guys I've never seen in quite that zone, certainly not with each other before. But the show is really funny in a way that does not feel derivative at all. To me, it feels genuinely original and cool.
I think that's where it is, though, isn't it? It's like TV is the new cinema, because half the shows you watch look like anything better made in the 90s for the big screen, by and large. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so the TV shows that I do watch, I don't watch a lot these days. And people say, oh, you're turning your nose up. And it's like, no, I kind of don't have the time. It's kind of weird. So the stuff I do want to watch, I tend to want it to be as original or as weird as possible. I've still got 3 seasons of Bob's Burgers to catch up on. That's the kind of deficit I have in my life.
Yeah. I think this is a good place to introduce the show.
Oh.
Since we're half an hour in. Everybody, this is Late Night with Brian Wecht. Over here we have Leighton Gray.
Oh, that's me. That one was Brian Wecht. Mystery guest.
What's up?
Who are you?
Oh, hello.
What are you doing here?
I am Paul Gannon, and I don't know what I am doing here. But if anyone does have an answer, I would love that. You can get in touch with me in all the usual places. I am looking for all the answers.
Amazing. And what's the 900 number where fans can reach you to chat?
It's 0900 hot dog.
And remember, folks, use the G, not the C.
It's DAWG, hot dog. You gotta remember that.
British spelling.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, so one thing. I mean, you mentioned it before, Paul, but I mean, you're closing in on episode 300.
Of my bloody podcast, yeah.
Of your podcast.
Congratulations.
Which is, we just passed episode 100 over here.
And it feels like a milestone, though, right?
Yeah.
You think, I can't believe I got to 100. Aren't I great? And then you get to 300 and you just want to put a bullet in your head. It's just... I love the show, but I honestly didn't think it had the legs to get to 300, but we're still kicking.
What year did the show start?
We started in 2016, and it was monthly. And then it got a little bit more popular because we joined a YouTube channel with 2 very popular YouTubers in the UK, and that boosted our profile. So then we went fortnightly. And then, because we started, getting real interest, and we thought, oh, let's kind of do it weekly. I have the time. We've made it work. And it's just been weekly since about 2019, and I haven't seen my family since.
Now, I was going to say, I understand you had a real banger of an inaugural guest.
It was you.
For your
me? I know. Yeah. Well, that was weird because, I'll be honest with you, it was a completely cynical move, right? Because we'd recorded a bunch of episodes. Me and Eli, my co-host Eli Silverman, we started because we both started doing stand-up, and we both did it and we hated it, and we gave up because we found it depressing. And so I said, let's do this whole podcast thing, and let's do it live, like in a venue with people. And we found a venue and we did it live, but there weren't many people coming to see us. And so we had this whole series for a while, and as we began to do it and have guests on, the format changed. And so it was like, oh, we can call this Cheap Show, because every week we look at cheap things that we find in bargain bins in charity shops and thrift stores and Poundlands and Dollar Tree type places. And so I rejigged all the early episodes and thought, what's a good one to have on first? Brian, he's good, isn't he? We'll have him
cheapest
on first.
Guest we could get.
Yeah, cheapest and angriest. Strange, trouble, many awkward conversations afterwards. But so yeah, you were by default our first guest. I'd like to say it was intentional, but it was merely opportunistic.
Well, and I think I was just about to leave. I was just about to move, right? It was like within the last few weeks I was living in London that you guys did that, I think.
Yeah, because I was coming out of doing geeky type shows, pop culture type stuff.
Which is how we met.
Yeah.
When you performed as a stand-up at Geek Week in Boston in 2011, I guess. So I remember when we met, it was you and Richard Sandling in Boston. And I was like, oh, I'm coming over to the UK and I'll see you guys over there. So maybe it was 2012.
Maybe. It all blurs into one at that point, because I was doing well with stand-up. Not like famously so, but I was making a bit of money when I was gigging and things like that. So it was really exciting because, I met you through Kevin, who was organising Geek Week.
Yep,
it was
Kevin Harrington.
fun to go over to Boston, and I was also going to film some stuff for my solo show in New York, because Richard was going over because he was nominated for a Comedy Central award.
Right, for the mustache, Tom Selleck's mustache video, right? Yeah,
video.
Amazing video, yeah.
And so, I just met a load of lovely people that weekend, that long weekend, whatever it was. And it was just one of my favourite times ever as a working stand-up, I guess, to go out there and feel legit.
That was a great weekend. The other thing I remember from that show is that's the first time I met or saw Aparna Nancherla, who was performing also at that Geek Week.
Wow.
So, that would have been 10-ish years ago. And I think I don't think that was like one of her first shows. I think she'd been performing for a while. But of course, now she's like a huge name and crushing it. Yeah.
It was funny. I was looking through my old like gig lists and things recently. And I came across a gig I did at Edinburgh for the Richard Herring podcast that I used to do in Edinburgh. And I was a guest one week. And I was like, what other idiots were on that episode with me that week by chance? And I looked at it, it was like the first name was Bo Burnham or whatever his bloody name is. It's like he was like, I think he was just like breaking through at the time or something, and he was just coming over. And I was thinking, yeah, all right, fair enough. This is when I leave the stage.
He would have been a baby then, right?
That's what I was going to say. Is he must have been like 14 or something.
In 2013, whenever it was. Yeah, blimey. He was a young, sprightly young chap.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe it.
I was going to ask, what's your most depressing stand-up experience?
Yes. Boom.
Dude. I mean,
let's get into it.
I can't tell you every one of these 700 or so gigs I did because we don't have the time. But
sure,
there was one that stuck out, and it wasn't like I was reasonably lucky in that I never. Hang on, I've just remembered another story. I'm going to lie. Okay, so
you can tell them both. By the way,
I didn't have too bad a stand-up career. I wasn't like a genius, but I got people laughing, and everyone had a good time at the end of the day, right? But there were two gigs that spring to mind. One was just at a rugby club in the middle of nowhere, and it was for rugby players who were all very drunk. I remember having a fine time with it, but the act on before me was a very British, very straight-laced. He came on in a suit and a tie, and his material was all about cricket. And
like older guy?
About the same age as me, really, 30s at the time. Yeah. But his whole mannerism was like, young conservative, if you can imagine that kind of look. Mm-hmm. But his material was always a bit kind of racy. Anyway, he did not go down well with that crowd. It was a really unfortunate gig for him. And the minute he got off the stage, some guy walked up to him, reached out to shake his hand and went, "Mate, you're just not very good," as he's shaking this comedian's hand. So I see this comedian, Andrew or something or other, just walk out the venue and get into the car and start the engine, and in which he continued to rev for the next hour as everyone else did their set. And I'm on the stage trying to do stand-up, and all I hear is rum. So the gig ends, I get my money, he's driving me back to London. And
the guy that just bombed.
Yeah. I get into his car, and my foot isn't in the car, and the door is definitely wide open before he tears arse right down the street to get out of here. And then for 7 hours, I heard the most disgusting invective from him about his opinion of that gig in the night.
Oh,
so that was one. So that was more worse for him than for me, but it was an awkward night. The second one was I had a gig in the afternoon. Oh no, in the early evening. Because it was doubling up kind of thing, so I was taking an earlier show at 7. And beforehand, I was at a barbecue having a drink or two, and I'm a lightweight, so that's warning number one. The second one is it was a really hot, lovely, sunny day, so I was taking loads of hay fever pills. So by the time I got to the gig, I was completely out of my mind, to the point where I don't remember much of it. I remember being on stage. I remember shouting, someone shouting to me, "You've done that song already." And then someone else then they all did the punchline with me when I told the joke for the first time, the second time. So
oh my god!
I shook my head and walked off. So yeah, and then was finally
really funny.
Speaking
while
of
we're
being
sharing-
violently ill.
Yes.
Oh, I was going to go
was-
in a different thread on the topic of violently ill, but
Well, I was going to share. Let me do it.
sure,
While,
yours is
before we
probably
shift
more
topics.
relevant.
Well, I was going to share a bad gig story.
Oh, do it.
So it's not a comedy thing. This is a music thing. So for several years, when I was living in San Diego, I was in a local like jam band cover. I mean, not quite a cover band. We did a bunch of covers, but a lot of originals too. And we were just like, none of us was doing it full time. Everyone had other jobs. It was like a, get gigs where we could. And we had regular gigs. We were performing, several times a month at various establishments around San Diego. But it was, none of us were at that point like professional musicians, basically a bunch of hobbyists. So we got a gig. It was rare we would like travel for a gig. They were usually around San Diego. Our regular gig was at this place in Pacific Beach in San Diego called the Tiki House, which was only tangentially a tiki themed bar, but didn't serve any tiki drinks. So they had some like tiki iconography around. Mostly it was a biker bar. And that was our regular gig. We had to set up the riser around the pool table. And our deal was in addition to, I don't know, probably $300 or $400 for a Saturday night, we'd get as much Miller Lite as we could drink.
Great.
Like, nothing else was on the house. They were total sweethearts.
All of the riches in the world.
Yeah.
It was, honestly, I loved that place. Everyone working there was cool. We just pack it with our friends and have a great time every Saturday night. We would occasionally venture out from that scene, and we booked a place. It's like an hour north of San Diego. I forget who booked this gig for us, one of the members of the band, but it was called Zip and Zach's Filling Station was the name of the establishment. I did not realize it was a gas station themed restaurant.
What?
Where the theme was you were in a gas station.
Wow.
And not a good gas. It was not a gas station. To be clear, this was an indoor establishment, but it was like, you were in the filling station, but instead of gas, you were filling yourself with alcohol. Guess what?
Okay.
So
What the fuck?
we booked this. We had to travel to this show. Like, not close. We get there. We realize that the person who was supposed to bring a bunch of gear just totally biffed it and didn't bring it. This guy has to hightail it back to town, which is like 45 minutes to an hour away, and then get back in time for the gig and sound check and all that stuff. So immediately off to a disastrous start. Nobody in this place, they had a little stage. Nobody in this place wants to hear us or anything we do. We start out with an original, and the group of 5 60-year-old men that were there quickly leave. We're going as hard as we can. We're like, okay, only covers. Fuck it. Let's get this crowd back. Let's do it. We try really hard. And then in our first set break, the owner or whatever of the bar comes up to us, this older lady, and she goes, okay, guys, that was your first set. For set number 2, which we knew we were taking a set break. And I've never had anyone say this to me in a performance. She was like, I'm just going to need a little more from you.
What was she fishing for?
I don't know. Like, I guess we weren't bringing it to the extent that the Zip and Zach's filling station reputation promised.
Zip and Zach filling station sounds like a Nickelodeon cartoon. It does not
100%
sound like you get
does.
rat-arsed.
Yeah. But so here's the plus side of this. She was so consistently rude to us that when we were leaving, somehow, and I didn't discover this till after the fact, the drummer, they had a fog machine in like the equipment closet that this guy just straight up took. And then from then on, we had a fog machine for the band because this guy had stolen it from Zip and Zap. So I think the statute of limitations has expired on this. This was,
wow,
15 years ago at this
How
point.
well did the concept of
yeah.
a fog machine fit with what you guys were playing?
Well, look, it's music. You can always use a fog machine.
Yeah, you
That
can
doesn't
add a
answer the
fog machine to
question.
anything. and it improves it. A funeral, get a fog machine. Wedding, brilliant fog machine. I can't think of any other reason why you wouldn't want to have a fog machine all the time.
That's right.
Anyway.
All the time. All the time. So
right,
a couple things to note about this band is, so in this band I played keyboards and saxophone, and of course I would rap.
Great. Because I'd love to see that. Can you remember any of the rap?
Well, they were all covers, so I did some cool Keith stuff.
Okay. Did you do Turtles at Power from the movie?
I should, yeah, Go Ninja, Go, that one.
No, that's the second one. The first one by Partners in Crime.
Right.
Partners in Crime,
Wow.
Turtle Power. There you go. I knew that. I think I still do know that one inside and out.
Wow. I've been debating. I was just listening to someone talk about this the other day, showing Audrey the first TMNT movie because I think she'd love it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's a good movie.
I still think it's the best one.
7-year-old.
They haven't matched it. I'm not a big Turtles person, but that's still the film that's aged the best.
Yeah. Layton?
I feel like Audrey would have fun, or at least would roast it in a funny way, which is all I really care about.
If it's a bunch of people making stupid jokes in turtle costumes, I think a 7-year-old's down for that.
Yeah.
All right. What were you going to say before, Layton?
Me?
On
the topic of being violently ill.
Yeah, please.
For some reason this morning, I was like, let me check on the Amazon reviews for Haribo sugar-free gummy bears. Because, that's... We're all aware of the reputation that those things have. And I'd never really done the boots on the ground work of trawling through those reviews. What a wonderful time. Just cackling on my balcony at shit jokes. Some real wordsmiths over there on Amazon.com for Haribo sugar-free.
It must have been like reading a Chuck Palahniuk novel.
Well, no, these were actually good and funny, so not like that.
Oh, shit.
Snap.
Oh,
I got him. I
shit.
like Chuck Palahniuk. Like, okay, he's fine. He's mostly fine. Hold on, let me see if I can find any of these that are...
It's because the thing is, I've been trying to cut back on my gummy intake just because, I'm at that age now. I've just got to think more sensibly. And a full meal is not a bag of Haribo by itself. So I need to really work on that.
You need to go to the other food groups. There's gummy worms. There's Swedish fish. There's sour
gummy,
apple
like,
rings.
Cola bottles.
I think if you want to really mix it up, Jolly Ranchers are always the way to go.
I always associate them with, like, you solved the problem correctly in math class. Here you go, you dumb fuck. Here's a Jolly Rancher. I think the most succinct review for the gummy bears is just 5 stars, help me.
Oh, wow. There's all sorts going on in that statement.
That's pretty great.
5 stars. These things are delicious, but they make my ass sound like Chewbacca.
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to... Which way does that go? That make you fart? Is that what that's saying?
I think it means maybe the texture of the feces probably creates a sound pattern, not unlike a warbling Wookiee.
Ah, yes. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because for the uninitiated at home, Haribo sugar-free gummy bears, I think part of like the thing that they use to replace the sugar is like a big ingredient in laxatives. So if you eat even like 3 of them, you are going to shit your brains out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So all of the stories are about like, I ate too many of these not knowing that these were sugar-free, and I've been on the toilet for 10 hours.
But the thing is, no one's never not just finished a bag off by themselves. Because do you know, like when you buy alcohol, or there's adverts that says drink responsibly, and they put it on the labels of the beer, so at least the company Budweiser says, well, we told them not to drink them all, but here's a 10-pack, but they've still put that on. It's the same for like bags of candy, where they give you a little sticker to fold the flap down and seal the bag so you can finish them later. I have never used that sticker in my life.
Yeah. I get those like pull off the top and then you can reseal it like a Ziploc bag for like peanut M&Ms or Reese's Pieces. I'm sorry, it's open and it's like a fucking bucket for my gaping maw to shovel tiny candy pieces in.
We have an expression here in the States, Paul. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Oh, I know all about those salty paraboloids.
You guys probably have better flavors of those than we do here, I would imagine.
This is the most fascinating thing. So a year or so on Cheap Show, we did a whole thing about Pringles, because depending on where you go in the world, you're going to find drastically different flavors based on the culture. And so I think what started out as a funny bit became actually torture, as I read out to Eli every single Pringles flavor that's ever been made around the world. And it's north of 200 easily.
What?
It's like fish finger flavor, cream pie, butter flavor. You got crabs,
Cream
fish.
pie.
You got it's like, think of anything right now, and I bet you there's a Pringles. Like there's a cheesecake they had. There was an egg sandwich flavor.
Oh my god.
Prawn cocktail or prawn dip. You have no idea. You've not looked into the abyss.
Cinnamon and sugar.
I mean, this is such a cliched thing to talk about. Yet I'm going to talk about it anyway. Is the first time, I think? Well, actually, right before I was going to move over there to the UK, I was over there, like, I don't know, doing some scouting around kind of stuff. And Walker's was having a flavor competition for their crisps.
Yeah.
Including the flavors. I believe Gray Squirrel was listed as one of them, right? And it felt like, I was like, obviously these are not squirrel flavor. These are, it felt very calculated. But they did have one which was Builder's Breakfast, which was supposed to be like, eggs, beans, toast,
sausage
kind
probably,
of stuff.
or
Yeah,
bacon.
sausage.
Yeah.
And so I bought one of each flavor because I was like, why the fuck not?
You're living in this country. When in Rome.
Exactly.
I get it.
And the odor from the Builder's Breakfast crisps was, to this day, one of the most stomach-turning things I've ever smelled. I mean, imagine opening up, it's like stale eggs.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And a bag, and it just assaults your nostrils with, it was so upsetting.
See, but I've had like Asian flavored, like egg flavored chips, and those are really fucking good. It's almost
sure they
like
can be.
egg yolk flavor. It's amazing.
It's like the latest craze. I say craze, that's not true. But like the latest kind of thing is like Takis are suddenly becoming popular in the UK.
Huge over here.
I don't
Huge.
trust food that looks like nuclear warning signs. It's like food should not be the colour that they are. And my co-host Eli said the most traumatic thing he ever did was when he ate a whole bag of blue Takis by himself. And
They
he
make
said,
blue?
Yeah. They're like
What flavor are the blue?
Oh, it was some kind of bullshit. Like it's called, like, it was like zombie bite flavor. So whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah.
But it was blue. And he said it was delicious, and he ate the whole bag. And he said the next day, he said his shit looked like Play-Doh. He said it looked like something. It was, and he goes, and it was just. He said he was traumatized by the color of it because it was so alien for him to see. And I was like, that food shouldn't do that to your body.
I will say though, I love Takis. I think
they are nice.
They're really the chili lime fuego ones or whatever that flavor is. Fucking great. Probably my favorite chip.
On our podcast because we have a PO box, so people send us stuff from around the world.
Oh,
so
right.
we have got some crazy stuff sent to us, some crazy flavors from around the world.
Like you have to give examples.
Yeah,
oh
what
god,
stands
this is
out?
where I fall down now because it all blurs into one at some point. But like one thing we did get recently is Nissan, who make cup noodles, the original cup noodle brand.
Oh yeah.
And they had a 50th anniversary, and so some of our supporters got together and bought a limited edition 50th anniversary box of Nissan. And what was fascinating about it is it came with 5 of the most famous brands and 1 new flavor, but it also came with 5 bottles of soda flavored after those cup noodle flavors. So there was a seafood flavored noodle, there was a ramen.
My god.
There was a and he said bukkake then. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Tonkotsu is the word I'm looking for.
They're basically the same. Basically the same, yes.
So we tested them, and it was such a bizarre experience because they use a base flavor for the drink. So, like, I think they had there was some kind of katsu curry flavored fizzy drink. But when you drink it, the first wave is like ginger ale, and then the kind of back end is the katsu flavoring. And then there was a beef one, or was it the tonkotsu, which like basically was like cola up front, but then pork at the back. It's just I couldn't have the seafood one because I'm allergic to seafood, but my mate Eli did. And you pour it out, and I'm just going to be honest, it genuinely looked like sperm. And he necked it, and he went, it was bizarre. It was like drinking crab sticks.
Wow.
So we get stuff like that.
Was this a thing? This was just made in conjunction with the 50th anniversary. This is not a product that was ever on
it was
sale.
a complete gimmick. They only sold it in Japan. So one of our listeners who lives in Japan managed to get hold of a set. A couple of other people chipped in. They all sent it to us in a box, and we built a whole episode around it because why not? That's what content's all about. When you've made 300 bloody episodes, you will drink anything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're almost approaching that point where on one of our Patreon minisodes the other day, we're talking about a perfume that's supposed to smell like blood and cum that I'm going to try to acquire a sample of.
That's bizarre because there are so many questions. What do they smell like? How do you synthesize that? Who gives them the thumbs up? Who's the cum and blood expert in the perfume department who goes, yeah, that's how I remember it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's crazy because it's like all of us have such a large supply of both of those things. Basically, you know, it's accessible at any time.
Or can get them easily.
Yeah.
Yes. You would not believe how. I'm gonna stop talking.
No, say it.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Your search engine must look like a serial killer's search engine.
Well, as it turns out, people say that perfume just smells like a crime scene. Which doesn't that just make you want to smell it? Like that's an incredible marketing campaign. Like
it really,
it smells like
CSI
a
to
dead
sponsor it or something.
That's a great idea.
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mindhunter, the perfume. Yeah.
I read a fragrance review where somebody said that they like dressed as a skunk for Halloween and then just got a sample of that and slathered themselves in it. Bold move.
I remember as a kid, my brother was into He-Man action figures. Most kids were,
same.
but he was.
I was.
And he had a skunk action He-Man figure that had a scent to it. And on the box, it said, don't inhale directly. Because apparently it was so strong that you could, get a kid to fritz out from sniffing it. And I remember someone said, I mean, I don't know what the relationship was. Someone said it's basically smelled like patchouli oil, but I couldn't tell you.
The one I remember from He-Man that was scented was Moss Man. And I remember on the figure, it had one of those, stars with text in it. It says, smells like real moss.
Wow, what a selling point.
I know, right? What every 8-year-old wants is the scent of real live moss.
Because that was the thing with toys in that era. Is like once you've made the initial builds and you got to keep on selling these action figures, what do you do? And like that's why you get things like strawberry shortcake, where it's like the gimmick is these small immovable objects smell of strawberries or something.
Yes, or something.
Do they still make scented markers for children?
Yeah.
Doesn't Audrey have some?
Are they scented? I don't think they're scented. I don't think she has any scented. Oh.
I swear one of the times I was at your house, I was like, she's talking about how good the markers smell. And I feel like making scented markers is really just flirting with danger. Because it's like, hey kids, what if inhalants like smelled like cotton candy? Check it out. Give it a shot.
Well, I remember they had those like, I assume they still make these in some capacity. The kind of markers that you would only find in your art classroom, which were like huffing paint kind of markers, like the big thick caps, real thick markers. They were like silver. I remember they were like the silver handled.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
These days, I think we call it the Sharpie effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like I remember like Crayola had like felt tip pens that smelt of like apple and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can I have that scent, that artificial marker, sort of like alcohol.
Yes.
Then, you run out of natural flavors, and then it becomes, this crayon smells like bacon. Hey, this one smells like pickles. It's like, what else
bacon
do you
and
want them
pickles
to smell like?
really are the bizarre scent shorthand. It's like you go through the normal ones, and they're like, I don't know, bacon, pickles, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, we need something new. What about Carolina Reaper chili? Let's have scented markers like that.
Ghost pepper.
This has unlocked a memory for me. In the 90s and early 2000s, there were infomercials for special markers called blow pens.
Oh, was that when you got like a kind of like spray paint effect by blowing through the back of them through the...
Yeah,
I don't remember this.
I didn't remember them being called blow pens, but I definitely had some.
I mean, throw an eye in there and you're in blow penis land.
Yeah. Well, similar results do happen when you blow one.
I blow pens. Well,
yeah. That's how I learned all the tricks of the trade.
They really were like, why did we do that? Kids don't need to blow on a marker. Why would we do this?
But
I will say it's smart because what does a kid do? They put every fucking pen and pencil in their mouth right away, right? Like Audrey spends 90% of her time chewing on pencils or pens.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious, they really are.
Yeah, no, they're and nutritious.
Yeah,
maybe we should probably feed her. I think we should move on to what were you gonna say, Paul?
No, I was going to say we're doing something for one of the channels I work on, and like failed Kickstarters, and one of them was edible crayons, and I was thinking just the very idea of that, because like Play-Doh is edible. If your kid eats Play-Doh, it might not be a great time, but it's relatively
it's non-toxic.
Safe. Yeah,
right.
So they had like crayons like that, so you could draw with these big, wax crayons, and then just eat them, and they would taste like the thing they were shaded of. And I was thinking, that's an appalling idea. I'm glad it didn't happen, because kids should not be hooked on crayons in terms of Play-Doh.
Well,
they should be hooked on phonics.
Monkey phonics.
It's all about precedent. Like we went to one of these new, I don't know if you guys have these, Paul, one of these Amazon stores where you just take stuff and you don't pay. So we went to one of those the other day with Audrey, and we were like, okay, just so you know, this is not how other stores work, right? Like, this is not suddenly.
Wait, what kind of store is this?
It's an Amazon store. It was a Whole Foods, but they have these for Amazon too, like Amazon Fresh. So you take your phone, which has a Amazon or whatever account, you scan it when you walk in, and then you just take a bunch of stuff, you put it in your bag right away, and then you scan your phone when you walk out, and you just walk out. And at no point does anyone take each individual product and check and like scan it so you pay for it. It just automatically goes to your Amazon account through some kind of dark art.
Creepy.
They have, it's very creepy, but it is also very convenient, which is always the trade-off. So we went there and we were like, we tried it. I was like, I'll take the thing off the shelf and I'll just walk out. And sure enough, an hour later, I get a receipt that says you took an orange juice or whatever. And we had to explain to Audrey, do not extrapolate this to other stores, because this is not suddenly how all stores work. So my concern about the crayons is that some kids like, hell yeah, shit's edible now. Yeah. Let's eat some pens.
Yeah, we'll eat all the pens.
Yeah.
Listen, if... Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry. No, I had nothing. I'll be honest. I had nothing. I'm glad you interrupted.
Well, I was going to say, let's move on to segments. I think it's a good time to move on to segments, unless you want to say something.
I have an entertaining anecdote.
I would rather hear that.
But now I feel like the fact that I had to say that I have an entertaining anecdote is going to make it
no,
whatever. So kids will eat anything. As a child, me and my friends, our favorite thing to do was to basically trick ourselves into drinking soap.
Right.
Because we would get flavored bottled waters or whatever else, and then realize that if there's a little bit of soap in whatever you're drinking, you can blow bubbles with it. So us running around like mouths full of soap attempting to blow bubble, like I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, but it was like a delicacy.
Great TikTok.
Oh,
you were ahead
doing
of the
it for the
curve.
talk.
Yeah,
that's true. All right, segments.
Segments. I've actually, you know what? Here, I'm going to try something new, Leighton, on this segment.
Why are you addressing
me? Do you want to introduce the What's Poppin' segment? We've had Paul as a repeat guest.
Yeah.
And a valued client and friend.
Mm-hmm. But content-wise, I'm spent.
That's right. Now he has nothing else to say.
I have nothing.
Normally, I would introduce the What's Poppin' segment here, but I'm curious if you'd like to give it a crack this week.
Sure.
Why does it sound like there's a catch involved or a trick or a trap?
There's no. Okay, sorry. just to be very, very clear, there's no catch.
Okay.
There's nothing sinister going on here. This is not something Leighton expected, but in the what is when you know this well, Paul. When you co-host with someone, you should set them up for success, right? You
that's
share
so
a bit of
right,
yourself,
Brian, and that's exactly what you just
shut
did.
up. You set them up for success, and you share a little bit of yourself with them, and you let them share a little bit of themselves with you, right? It's a kind of magical symbiosis that good co-hosts like Leighton
and speaking of that symbiosis,
shut up, Leighton, just shut up for a second, please. Let me finish this. That two co-hosts share. So what I've tried to do with this bit is I've tried to kind of spread the introduction of the segment, which normally I would do all by myself. Tried to spread it out a little to give Leighton, whose voice is Leighton is a valued member of the Late Night team.
Thank you, and as a valued member of the Late
Leighton,
Night
I swear
team,
to
I'm a
fucking
little
God,
upset.
let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
You,
let
as
me
a
finish.
man,
let
are speaking over me, a woman, and you're very on the left.
Me.
You're so
you
woke.
interrupted. No.
You are so about being
me.
woke, and
This is
meanwhile,
not
I'm a
on me,
woman.
and I refuse
I'm a girl
to be
boss. I'm
blamed
speaking
for this.
my truth.
I respect you.
And this
I am full
man
of respect
is
for
talking
you,
over
and I'm not
me.
I am not interested in being
Oh, you're not
interrupted
interested in
on
women's
my own
rights?
show.
You're not.
No, I am very interested. I am a vocal donor to the
I'm
Center
a
for
woman, and I
Reproductive
have a
Rights,
right to
and
tell you to
know
shut
that.
the
I've
fuck
showed
up,
you the
Brian
receipt.
Wecht.
I don't deny that you have that right, but I don't appreciate being interrupted, least of all in my own show. So all I'm asking you
On your
respectfully
own
is to
show,
just,
whose
is
name
to just
comes
shut,
first
is
on
to
the show,
shut up.
Brian?
Yeah, whose full
Whose
name
name
is in the
comes
show?
first on
Whose
the
full
show?
name? It could be Leighton to anybody, but it's Brian Wecht. So just wait
Yeah,
a minute.
because it's a Madonna-type situation
Let
where my
me-
last
let
name
me
does not
finish.
even need to be in the equation
Listen,
because everybody knows that it's
nevertheless,
Leighton
I
Knight.
persisted. I refused to be interrupted by a friend and co-host. So just let me finish this before I throw to you. Leighton, would you care to introduce the What's Poppin' segment?
No, go fuck yourself.
Okay, great. So, Paul, this is our pop culture
So look, am I going to have to get involved with HR now? Is this going to be an issue where I have to be a witness and sign shit? Because I didn't fucking expect this. I don't want to walk into someone else's tribunal.
I think that's the most. Are we both going off of the energy of having discussed how people don't like it when people fight, and because that's the first time we've really actually done a real yelling at each other type of thing, and it was really
Holy
fun.
Shit.
I think it was really fun.
My podcast is nothing but that every week. I'm not even exaggerating. What you did in 5 minutes is my weekly hour-long content.
Your book reading reaction was so pitch perfect to the point that, folks, if you're not on the Patreon and you're just listening to the audio version, there's a whole additional element.
Yeah.
to
be fair, I did genuinely tap out mentally, so I just thought I'd grab a book.
No, that's good.
No, we encourage all listeners to do that.
So tap out mentally. That's by the time we hit, the intro. That's your signal to turn
I
off.
thought we did long cold opens, but when you half an hour in go, we should get this started. I was like, whoa, I'm messing with the big boys now.
You're lucky we remembered to introduce the show, which is something we frequently forget until after the fact. And then we're like, oh, shit. Anyway, this is our pop culture recommendation segment. You get to recommend a book, a movie, a video game, whatever it is that you've been enjoying recently. It's called What's Poppin', and the theme song goes here.
What's poppin'?
What's Poppin'? Great. We always put that in post, as I like to inform our guests. I do want it noted, of course, that Leighton refused to introduce that segment. Anyway, Paul.
Yes.
What's poppin'?
So, you know what? I'm going to slightly shine a light on myself, but not really. But shine a light on
it.
So, a couple of friends of mine, Claire and Anthony Bueno, and I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but it definitely wasn't released when we last spoke, did a documentary about the history and the making of Ghostbusters. And it was called Cleaning Up the Town. And it's this really long documentary about the history of making that film.
That's a great name for it.
Yeah, and they're making part 2 based on Ghostbusters 2, which will be called Too Hot to Handle. And they're in the last stages of
I was going to ask. Yeah.
That's what you call it.
I mean, yeah. Leighton, wait, hold on. We have to ask Leighton. Do you understand Cleaning Up the Town and Too Hot to Handle in the context of Ghostbusters?
I fully understand Too Hot to Handle within the context of Ghostbusters, because that's what my fucking mouse pad says.
But
There
is
it
it
is.
too cold to hold? See, that's the actual question.
No, okay, what are you guys talking about? It's just, it's important to me. I've had this mouse pad. I got it at a yard sale for $1 forever, and I have not ever before had an opportunity to whip it out in this context. But please.
Yeah, got it.
There's songs that play in the movies, or lyrics of songs that play in the movies, I should say. So I can't remember who did the Cleaning Up the Town one, but
It's
the Too
the
Hot to
Bus
Handle
Boys.
is Bobby Brown, right? Is
Oh,
Too Hot to
On Our
Handle.
Own is Bobby Brown, but in the original
Yeah.
film, it's the Bus Boys that do the song Cleaning Up the Town.
Cleaning Up the Town. It's like
That's
a
what got me into big
blues-
band music,
yeah.
that song, because that was one of the first
Yeah.
albums I ever bought. And that song was like, oh, I like big band and piano and horns and stuff. That's excellent.
That's the.
It's the We Got
When
One
Ecto
scene.
One is-
Yeah, when
yeah,
it
yeah,
comes
yeah.
through the
Right.
firehouse for the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time. And then
Yep.
goes to the Sedgwick, which I didn't. When I went to LA a few years ago, when I actually probably last saw you, I went finally into the inside of that hotel in downtown LA, which is the interior
Oh,
for the
nice.
Sedgwick Hotel in
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, and that was very exciting. Although I felt sorry for the staff there because there was like 40 people walking through in Ghostbusters uniforms on that day, and I don't think they were prepped.
Yeah. Sorry, but continue with your
Oh,
recommendation.
so it's
Yeah, yeah.
basically it's been released since I think we last spoke, and you can get it on Blu-ray, and I think it's on all the kind of usual streaming platforms. But if you want to know about the making of Ghostbusters, and frankly, there's so much stuff to know that they couldn't get it all in. It's a really great documentary, and Anthony and Claire worked on it for I want to say 10 years, maybe 12.
Oh my God.
It was like a really long process. And at the very, very end, this is where I come in. I do a song over the closing titles of the documentary because Sigourney Weaver wrote a poem for the Rat Party of the
this.
'84 film.
Yeah.
And I set it to music and I sang it and it got remixed and
I
they used it
remember
as the end
this,
title
yeah.
sequence. So that's quite nice. But it's a great documentary. And, I'm all about Ghostbusters, me. So what?
That's great. A lot. I forgot about that.
That's super fun.
It's a great doc. It's beautifully made. They put a lot of love and effort into it. And there's also last interviews with Harold Ramis before he passed on and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff in there that is kind of touching since Ivan's passed on as well. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with Ghostbusters 2 because frankly, I'm a Ghostbusters nerd who knows a lot about Ghostbusters. But Ghostbusters 2 is always the much more fascinating story, I find. The making of that is particularly interesting.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Because so this is just from what I've heard from talking to Anthony and Claire why they've been making these documentaries, but they basically infer that everyone they spoke to creatively said if they had been given 6 more months to make that film, it would be very different in terms of set pieces, plot points, things that were cut out. There's so much cut out of that film, Ray being possessed by Vigo at the end has a scene middle of the film where he tries to drive Ecto-1 into a tree through Central Park, killing everyone. And that scene's cut out. And there's loads of scenes with Lewis Tully trying to catch Slimer. And all that was cut out. And also the endings were a bit different. And, there was lots of plot differences. And I think everyone basically goes, if we just had a little bit more time, we didn't rush it out, it would have been different. So there's lots to
That's
explore, I
interesting.
think, as a result.
Do you know, I have to look up the name of this, I'm doing it right now, an article entitled The Hateful Life and Spiteful Death of the Man Who Was Vigo
Yes.
the Carpathian? So that is my friend and past guest on the podcast, Sean Revive, who wrote that article.
Because that's a great article.
It's a great
You
article.
guys should be friends.
Yeah.
I should have friends. Just full stop. After that, I'm not picky. But yeah, that's a great story because he is a bastard. Tough life and stuff. But he was also the terrorist in Die Hard. He's one of the terrorists in Die Hard.
Right,
And he was
right.
also in the Mouth of Madness. But he's dubbed in
What,
that.
who
Like,
is he in?
in
who
the
is he
Mouth
in
of Madness? He's the kind of yokel who goes, Tommy boy. It's hard to kind of point out 'cause it's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember he says Tommy boy or something, Johnny boy. But
right.
he's one of the lower grunts in Die Hard, and obviously he's Vigo the Carpathian in Ghostbusters 2, voiced though by Max von Sydow. Is that how you say his name?
Sydow, I've always said, but I don't know. I don't
But
know.
anyway,
what's
he
right,
does the
yeah.
voice of Vigo. The actor didn't like hearing that.
Yeah. I bet. Layden, what's popping?
What's popping for me is a book called The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. And I didn't write down who wrote it.
Proving the
Because you
book's
got
point.
distracted, yeah.
Yeah, by Nicholas G. Carr. I'm not super far into it, but it's been really great so far in terms of just really preaching to the choir on like, yes, using the internet has completely changed the way that our brains work. So that's really fun. It's a partial pop-in because my other What's Poppin' is an excuse to talk to Brian about a specific thing, which is what's also poppin' for me is the double threat John Cassier saga. This is so important to me.
It is the best. Paul, do you know what Double Threat is?
Is it a film?
No, Leighton.
No. Is it a sex
This
act?
is your What's Poppin', so why don't you
Go for it. Hit me.
Oh, this is my
Explain
turn.
this.
Double Threat is a podcast.
Sorry, I
that
try to be
Brian
very
talks-
respectful of your voice, and whenever you have something to say, far be it for me to interrupt you. So yes, I cede the floor. It is your turn to speak.
Just get my book.
Double Threat is a podcast. Double Threat is a podcast that Brian brings up like every single week on the show, hosted by Tom Sharpling and Julie Klausner, both very funny people. And so they did this one episode called Waiting for Cassier, where they booked John Cassier, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, to come onto the show for them to interview him. And they're super excited to talk to him. And in real time, you hear them get ghosted by John Cassier. And so the mood goes from excited, nervous, to like really nervous, and then down to like the anger. Like you go through all phases, and then they just start going in on like, they're like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. He probably watches people in like women's locker rooms, and they're all just doing like hysterical Crypt Keeper impressions.
Oh wow!
And you know,
it's not a bit, as far as anyone knows.
He just ghosts.
It was not scheduled, so they thought he was going to show up, and they just kept things rolling as the episode went on. Yeah, it's not a bit that he didn't show up.
That's the episode that got me into Double Threat, and you know that opens a wide range of other things to listen to because there's a lot of great episodes. But recently they had their 100th episode where they happened to book John Cassier for real this time, and I don't want to blow up their spot too hard, but the interview
No, do it.
the interview is on the public feed. And so the 100th episode that is on, you know, that's available without getting like a Forever Dog subscription is just the interview with John Cassier. But that live stream was 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
John Cassier is just the fucking worst. It's like one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever listened to.
Oh my God.
But what is he known for that?
Yeah, Brian,
'Cause, like,
jump in.
Yeah, so no, I mean, I don't think the thing he's known for is the voice of the Crypt Keeper. I don't think he's known for being a tool. He's just, he comes across, like, disagree with this if you will, as an older, he's probably in his 60s or something, so he's not like old, but he's older. He thinks a lot of himself, and he is just not cool.
Wow.
He just like...
Imagine like this stereotype of total blowhard, only known for this one role 30 years ago, who is constantly referencing it. And then also he's like mean to the hosts and will monologue. Like they ask him what his favorite pizza is. And this is after like a whole interview of him just being a douche. And they ask him, like, they're trying to give him a real softball. Like, John, what's your favorite pizza? And he goes on like, well, I've been to Italy many, many times.
That's
and,
how he starts.
You know, my family.
God almighty.
Yeah, just keeps
My
fucking going.
absolute... Leighton, did you hear this week's episode of Double Threat? Did you listen to it?
I listened to most of it, at least for them to start talking about it.
Well, did you hear the part? This was my favorite thing, is Tom Sharpling said during the interview he was playing a game with himself where he was seeing how many times he could just while Cassier was talking, how many times he could just quietly go, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like really inappropriately timed in the meter of John Cassier's speech too. So it's like super obvious that he's doing it, and then finally just goes, "That's so cool."
So
it's so weird though when you see people go through the rigmarole turning up to an interview and they're not engaging. It's like, what? Where's the malfunction there? Because it's like, why just say no?
And also everyone's like in on the bit of like everyone on the call because like they have their producer, and there's also a live chat that I guess John can't see, and so you see the producer Brett like trying so hard to keep it together because he's reading the chat, who are just like eviscerating him.
Destroying him.
Wow.
It's like, I mean, at some point they're trying to like move things along and ask him questions, and at some point very early in the interview, and this is exactly where it took a turn for me, which is like maybe 5 minutes in, he's like, well, look, if you didn't interrupt me, I'd be able to answer your questions. And it's like,
wow,
oh shit. And
because
then,
he's monologuing. They're asking him like really specific questions, and he just goes into like these rants about people he's
name
worked
dropping.
with.
Like, you know, he'll say things like, well, of course, Jerry was on the set. And you're like, who the fuck is Jerry?
Wow.
You know, oh my God.
But I guess if you spend a career using your voice, you may get to like the sound of it eventually. Maybe too much.
Well, because he keeps doing it. He uses the Crypt Keeper voice to dunk on people and then is like, no, I'm just kidding. Does the stupid little laugh. And like he keeps saying that Julie, like he repeatedly triples down on Julie looking like Chucky, but is like weird and neggy about it.
Which she does not. She just has red hair.
She just has red hair. Anyway, so the live stream is really worth it because I listened. Get your Forever Dog Plus thing, because the moment he's off the call, they just go in and it's so fucking funny.
Do you want to say what Tom says or just let people experience it?
I'll say, I don't know if people are going to go experience it, but I implore you, even before, because to the context, I didn't think they were ever going to get John Kassir on the show, and I love the Waiting for Kassir episode, and despite not having listened to much of Double Threat, I've listened to that episode over and over, because it's so funny, and having this end cap of he fucking sucks is the funniest possible conclusion. Anyway.
It's probably the best conclusion they could have asked for that, because everything else would have been probably anticlimactic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
But John Kassir leaves and Julie's like, is it just the four of us on the call? And Tom just goes, I'm going to kill myself.
But then don't you worry then that like the guy's PR agent or whatever's going to listen to that episode back and say, did you hear the shit they said? Is it just going to escalate from there?
This is the thing about, look, if the situations were flipped and I were in their shoes, yes, I would 100% worry about that. What I love about their show is they don't give a single fuck.
Great.
Yeah,
and
they
they're
really
just going to
do
say,
not care.
and they're not unfair either. They're not like ragging on the guy unfairly. They're talking about
a good
the very obvious, palpable, uncool stuff he did. It's awesome. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's great.
That's why you should never meet your heroes, just in general.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's...
Oh, I love them.
Listening, so folks at home, listen to the public feed Waiting for Kassir, then listen to the interview because it cuts right after the interview. And you will, and that if anything would sell you on giving them money to hear their content, that should do it, because you get to the end and you're just like, I desperately need to hear what they said after this ended, because holy shit.
I signed up for the Forever Dog subscription just for this, and it was fucking worth it. It's so good.
A+. So what's popping this week? The Shallows, whatever. Who cares about books? Listen to Double Threat, and it's me saying it this time instead of Brian, which is why you should listen to it. Anyway, we just spent like 10 minutes rehashing another podcast, so...
Again, the content I do on a regular basis, this is just fine. I'm totally warm water here.
It is so great, Leighton, it's that feeling where I recommended something to a close friend, something I deeply love, and you're like, this is awesome. And usually you recommend something to a friend, and they're like, they either don't watch it or whatever, experience it all, or they're like, yeah, it was fine. It is so nice to have something where you're like, this rules. And I'm not saying that, we diverge much on taste, but it's just rare to be so on the same page about exactly the same thing.
Especially like a very specific kind of niche thing.
100%.
Because I feel like that when I bump into anyone who likes On Cinema, I'm like, what, really?
Yeah.
For truth?
Same.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
Well, On Cinema is one of those things where like, it's such an immediate... like, okay, our senses of humor are probably, if you're willing to sit through this and also find it just ridiculously funny, then it's like, okay, we'll vibe.
That's exactly right.
Brian, what's poppin'?
Well, I'm going to maybe this is even going to be more specific than the double threat thing.
Are you going to name an element? Is that going to be what happens? You name an element.
Yeah. What's popping for me is ytterbium.
I like this feature. Do it more.
Yeah. Couldn't tell you anything about it. What's popping for me is there is a specific Sammy Davis Jr. performance of the song "What Kind of Fool Am I," which is from a musical in the '60s. But he has. I was looking this up because Audrey and I've been playing this song on the piano while she sings it. We've been bonding over, singing songs together. And I looked up, I know it was a big hit for Sammy Davis Jr., and I looked up, on YouTube to see videos. And there's a performance of him from Hamburg in 1969 where he crushes this song so hard and in such an just beautiful way. I watched this video like 6 times in a row. It's a real like cheesy Broadway classic, and I just could not love it more. That guy's voice is just incredible. I mean, he is a true mega talent. And I think in many ways, he's not Sinatra or Dean Martin or whatever, like these guys that kind of got I think the bigger name and more respect. I mean, I wonder why that could be, but whatever. In the Rat Pack, he is, I think, the true talent of that whole group, and I hope he has some kind of. He's not alive anymore; has been for a long time. But I wish people would appreciate him more, because he is so good at what he does, and this specific performance just blew me away. It's with a full orchestra. It starts out, half the song is just voice and guitar, and then the orchestra comes in. I love it so much. I'll put a link in the show notes so people can experience it.
There are just some voices from that period that are just like a warm bath, like his. And I think the obvious example might be like Nat King Cole, who I don't know a voice more pure and beautiful and warm than his.
Yeah,
that makes you feel like a hug every time he sings. I don't want him to be my daddy. It's that kind of voice.
Yeah. Nat King Cole, Nat King Cole is one of my all-time favorites. He has this, Nature Boy is great, but he has this song, I never see anyone talk about it, called Mr. Cole Won't Rock and Roll, which I believe is from the 50s, which is his reaction to rock and roll and how stupid the lyrics are and how much he hates it. And it's
cool.
Really fun. And he kind of parodies, 50s, 60s rock and roll songs.
Oh, nice.
In that classic, they don't make them, they're not making music like they used to kind of thing. But just hearing this, Nat King Cole, the super jazz talent, totally shit on rock and roll in a funny, good natured way is just, it's great.
I'll have to check that out. That's evaded me, that one. So good. Thank you.
Mr. Cole Won't Rock and Roll. Yeah. All right. That's what's popping.
Hell yeah.
Layton, what's next?
What's next is Peaches and Lemons, a segment, the one that I introduce, where we each say one mild bummer, annoyance, whatever else, that's a lemon, and we say 3 good things that are cool, fun, exciting, whatever. Those are peaches. There's 3 of them. Theme song here. Peaches and Lemons. Peaches and Lemons. Magic, episode 110. I've just really worked that down to the most succinct.
Dialed it in.
Perfect description of a set. Anyway,
Snappy.
so thank you.
That's what I tried to do too.
Mm-hmm.
My lemon is that I've gotten much more into building keyboards again. I kind of had a little time off, and then I came back, and I was like, I just finished one that I was really happy with. I should go back to one of my earlier builds that I fucked up and see if I can't fix that. Smash cut to me, outside of my apartment with a knife and a soldering iron, trying to pry a Pro Micro off of a board. It's not even worth explaining why this was a problem or whatever. But kids at home, if you're ever making keyboards, remember, socket your Pro Micros. This is very important. I was like, I don't need to do that. Saving diode legs. And then your Pro Micro breaks. And it's like, yeah, how are you going to get that off, you bitch? You should have planned for this. So
they should have put that logo at the beginning of all arcade cabinet games.
Yeah, so save those diode legs. Save yourself some trouble. Always test your Pro Micro before you solder it to a board. It's that easy. All right. Anyway, that's my lemon.
Cool.
Lemons?
I'm a really positive guy, so I don't really know. I don't know. It's, you know what it is? It's like if I have a little lemon, it's the fact that I think I got locked down comfortable and I liked my hermit-style existence for a while. And so going back out into the world becomes a bit of a pain in the arse, because I don't think before the lockdown I was a huge fan of human beings. So it's kind of hard to ingratiate myself. So because I'm now back at like my other producing job, it means that I'm going out into the world again, and so that's my lemon. I'm just a bit grumpy about having to use public transport, people and things and elements. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's a good one. Brian.
My lemon is the fucking housing market in LA. We are, and everywhere, we're looking at maybe trying to get a bigger place, and holy fuck, it is just it's awful
grim
and depressing. And how can people afford this? I
think the same about London as well, to be fair. It's like,
how
can anyone own anything anymore?
Like, how is the whole thing not fucking imploded? It's crazy. I just don't get it. I don't see how it is sustainable in any way. And people are just, every place you're like, oh, that place seems nice. Oh, it went for all cash, $500,000 over asking. And you're like,
and the
what?
asking was already fucking insane.
And the asking was already stupid. And you're just like, who is buying these? It's so...
Oh.
Yeah, so when we talked to our realtor that we bought this place from, she was like, here's the deal. It's going to take you 6 months because nothing's going to work out. So luckily, this is just like, we're just kind of looking, but oh my God, it's, I'm having like, it makes me very anxious just to be dealing with it. Yes, please.
Getting a mobile home and just going out onto the road and living like the near dark vampires. And just doing that life for a while,
Yes. Well, that's why I go on tour, Paul.
Yeah, true.
So,
true.
Yeah, that's as close as I'm.
Just have a house you can park anywhere and have a different sunset every night.
Yep, and it's full of musicians. So, anyway, that's my lemon. It's luckily we're in no rush to do anything, and if we don't get another place, it's fucking fine. But
but it's a long game, isn't it? It's not something you can impulsively do anymore, even if anyone ever did. But yeah,
that's right. It also makes me feel like an asshole to be like, I'm going to wait and I really hope the market crashes.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make me feel like a good person. But
No.
No, but it is pretty fucking unsustainable in this particular area as somebody
everywhere
who looks at homes and is like, wouldn't that be cool when I'm 89 and... I mean, none of us are living that long.
I don't think I'm going to get through this week, frankly. So,
yeah.
Well, then to talk to people in, like, our relatives in Minnesota, they're like, yeah, I own a 7-bedroom house on a lake, and I paid like $250,000 for it.
Wow.
It's just like, I get it, but also, anyway, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Peaches.
I'll blaze through mine since some already mentioned. Boom. Corn, done. Working. OLED's not quite, but I'm getting there.
Nice.
Folks at home, I finished this fucking keyboard. I've got some things to work out, but it's very exciting. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and solder, so got 'em. Peach number 2. I've just been eating a lot of scrambled eggs lately. It's great.
They're good.
You tear up a Kraft single. That's my move, because in terms of, you gotta have cheese on the scrambled egg, but in terms of stuff that is going to melt at the same temperature and speed of an egg cooking, you can't beat it. I mean, you can beat it because it's eggs, so you kind of have to. Have to beat it.
Box checked. Moving on.
Done. And then my third one is the wonderful, wonderful world of the Cyberpunk 2077 modding community, because I've said too much about that game on this podcast, but I'll just say that installing mods enabled me to put like another 80 hours in this game. So,
wow.
Check it out.
80 hours of the game is just it's scary to me that weirdly.
It's amazing, right?
Because I had a friend who like got really into Guitar Hero, and after a few months, he could shred that Guitar Hero and play any level of whatever. And I was thinking, but what of a real guitar? What if a real needs to learn in that time and get really good? Because
a more transferable skill.
Yeah, and just go.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Well, except the irony or the amazing thing in 2022 or whatever is you totally could be a Guitar Hero performer and people would fucking show up for it.
Yeah.
And that's like I'm sure there is a subgenre of YouTubers, TikTokers, whatever, digital creators who are like professional Guitar Heroes.
Yeah.
And do that.
So effectively, it's like professional Milli Vanillis, I guess.
Yes, that's right.
A lot of people being excellent at other people's work.
Do
you know who Milli Vanilli is, Leighton? Do you know what that's a reference to?
I forget.
Can we not do this?
References. To be fair, though, I do realise that the references I pull are getting further and further.
Oh, no.
Like, to the point where I'm like naming like Max Miller, old musical comedian from the early 1900s on my podcast. It's like, who the fuck? Not even my mum knows that reference.
Can you name, Paul,
Yeah.
both members of Milli Vanilli?
One was called Albert Scritty, and I think the other one was like Peter. Sorry, that was an awful guy. I don't know the name.
Rob and Fab.
No.
Rob and Fab from Milli Vanilli. Yeah.
Poor buggers.
Yeah.
All right, somebody else peaches.
Okay, great. Okay, peach number 1 is next week. That is Audrey's spring break, and we, the family, the Weck family, are going to the Pacific Northwest. And we'll be staying with some friends in Portland for a few days and then going up to Seattle for a few days. And
what a good way to let everybody
to
know that you're not going to be at your house.
Well, luckily, by the time this comes out, I will be home.
Ah.
So,
Got
yes.
him.
The beauty of scheduling and editing.
The beauty of scheduling. But I'm excited. We're going to see our Portland friends we haven't seen for a while, and I'm just psyched to go up to there, to both places because they're great cities. Peach number 2 is I can say nothing about the details, but a friend of mine has written a giant collection of puzzles that I've been test solving for him. Ooh. And they will be publicly available at some point, but they are so fun, and I get to every day check the puzzle site and see if there's new puzzles to test, and they're written by this crack team of constructors. I really can't say specifics about it, but it's so fun to be like the first person to see these really great puzzles. When they come out, I will let people know.
Lovely.
But yes, and let's see. Peach number 3 is I have received the first real mix from my upcoming smooth jazz album.
Ooh.
Produced by Commander Meouch.
You better send me this shit right now.
And it's pretty fucking great, if I do say so myself. It is hard to think of a song I've done that has the potential for being less popular than this particular song. But let me just say it has vocals. And it has the soprano saxophone. And it is about making a jazz song. So
sorry,
it's very
this
exciting.
question isn't insensitive.
Yes. No, please.
But can I make love to this album?
Yes, you can.
I mean,
Yeah,
literally
I'll-
and figuratively. I want to know I can physically make love to the physical edition of the album, and I can also make love along with it.
Yeah, you can do both.
Okay.
And actually, with suitable attachments, the album can make love to you.
Oh, I'm sold. I'll have 4 copies.
It's called a triple threat.
Cool.
So, yes.
Oh, that's
So, anyway,
exciting. All right, cool.
very excited,
All right,
yes.
I've decided I've got my peaches. All right, so one is, I need to find it actually. Oh, it's up here. So, years ago was a kids show in Britain, Saturday morning TV show thing.
Wait,
Number
can I
70.
guess?
Oh, go on.
Are you going to talk about Dusty Bin?
No,
Okay.
no, that's
I
in my
love
back
it.
pocket.
I love
I
it
get
when you talk
desperate.
about Dusty Bin. Yeah.
Dusty Bin is if I come back for a third time, because Dusty Bin has got a lot going on. You don't just talk about Dusty Bin. You got to talk about Ted Rogers, 321, the Fred Show, the logic of the show. It's a rabbit hole. But no.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, there was a kids show that was called Number 73, Saturday morning show with like actors introducing clips of TV shows and sketches, and they'd introduce bands on and things like that. It was a Saturday morning show. Mm-hmm. But if you wrote in on the show, you'd get a badge, and I always wanted one. And a kid from my school went on the show and got a badge, and I hated him. And then I decided instead, because we live in the future, I'll just go on the internet and buy one now. So I did. So I'm just going to show you one.
So great.
There's a number 73 door, a red door badge.
Love
there
it.
we go. So that's now on my pin board, which in itself is a beautiful
so
peach.
Great.
That's not
Well,
gonna
congratulations. You found a workaround and you did it.
Yeah, that's not going to go up and easy. So, yeah, that brought me joy because small things do. The other thing is a friend sent me this, which he 3D printed, and I love it. So it brought me joy. I'm basically presenting things that brought me joy.
No, that's great. Perfect.
And I wanted to show this off because I don't get to show it. But this is, I guess, on the webcam for Patreon, so it's exciting. You can see my 3D printed Ghostbusters hood ornament from the 2016 film.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Wow, that's tight.
Cool.
Which was on the front of the Ecto one in that film. And I adore that hood ornament. So they printed it out and so gave it to me, and that's now on top of my Ghostbusters
That's a good one.
Firehouse. I'm a boring man.
I like that design, yeah.
Yeah, but boring man. I mean, I'm one note. I really am. It's fine. You got to have a gimmick, right? So the third thing is actually someone I should thank a lot more than I do. So for our podcast and for our Patreon supporters, one of our fans, but she's better than that now because she makes genuine brilliance. She did a Cheap Show magazine, which would go out to people who support us. And
great idea.
She's been doing it for a few years, and every issue gets more professional to the point where I kind of say, please stop, because you're making the actual podcast associated look bad. It's like brilliant.
Yeah, that's the tipping point, is when the fans start making better content for the show than you do.
The minute our audience started breaking wind, they were already producing better content than our podcast. But she really aced it recently because Yvonne got in touch with, I'm going to forget his name now because I'm an awful human being, Bill. Long story short, he's worked on Futurama and The Simpsons, character designer, worked on Bongo Comics. Turns out he also drew the poster for the very first movie poster I ever hung up on my wall, which was the horror film House.
Oh yes,
and I love
it.
that poster.
Wow.
That's with the hand ringing the bell.
Yeah,
right?
just the severed hand ringing the bell, and that was him who did it. Bill Williamson, Bill Matheson. Oh, I'm an awful human being.
We could let's look this up right now.
I should have looked this up beforehand because that's what a professional person would do.
Designer Simpsons.
Yeah.
His name is no. Wow, that was bad.
Bill Morrison. Bill Morrison.
Okay. Great.
Is his name. And anyway, so moving on from that awkward bit of research, he did an interview with him because the whole issue was about comic books, but also he designed me and my co-host as Simpsons characters for the front cover of the magazine. And so it's like such a beautiful, wonderful thing. So I just wanted to say
so great.
My big peach would be Yvonne, because every time she bangs out a magazine, it is absolutely beautiful. She's done sticker book versions. She's even done free gifts on the front with like pin badges and vinyl records and stuff and little flexi discs. So she does it brilliantly, and so everyone gets a digital copy, but then she has a shop front where you can buy physical copies of it, and she sends me them, and they're just beautiful things. I genuinely don't deserve them, but she deserves a lot of love because she's a very talented human being.
What's her like physical?
Yeah.
Where can you buy the physical version?
If you want to, it's cheapmag.shop, CHEAPMAG.shop. And like she does printed versions of all. Oh, there it is. It's right on the front page. I didn't even check. But yeah, if you go there, you can buy printed versions of the digital magazine she releases, and they're brilliant because they're full of quotes from the episodes and interviews of other guests we've had on and features based on the features in the show. So it all kind of works, except it's intelligently written and put together.
This is real.
This is so
great.
cute.
I love the art. This rules.
I'm very blessed with Yvonne, and everyone who gets involved with that magazine's talent, because we have a lot of artists who get involved and do merch. And I've always said, if you do art for us on Cheap Show, you protect your art and you sell it on your merch pages. So if anyone wants a Cheap Show t-shirt, go to Tony or go to whoever and use their page and support them.
That's so great. What I was going to tell you, Paul, is that I think you do deserve it. So,
well,
this is you're great. You're the best. What can I say? And I want to celebrate. We celebrate all our guests, but today I want to celebrate you. Oh, because you're one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you.
So,
it's very touching because, I have paid him to say this on numerous occasions. But, you helped launch the podcast. You were there at the beginning. You might even be there at the end, depending on my nefarious plans.
Oh, you know what? No. I will promise you right now.
Yeah.
I will promise you right now that if you tell me this is the final episode, I will be there. I will fly to London or wherever. I will make it out there.
Well,
if you're gonna,
I tell you what,
if it's the end.
I won't spoil anything. But I don't know how long Cheap Show's going to go on for. Who knows? I'm surprised it's lasted this long. But I already know what the last episode's going to be about because we have a certain narrative running through our show. To be honest, this is where I go back to. I have stolen from On Cinema considerably for my podcast lately. And so we have very similar themes with like plot lines and big events and live stuff and characters. But I know what the last episode is. And it does need you to be there because it's all about the first episode. So that's the idea, without spoiling it.
I will make a promise to come there for the.
And what I might do is
you know what? No. I'm going to walk this back. I'm not promising anything, but I will send you a very kind voicemail.
No, it's even better. I will just take this conversation and the others we've had that are recorded, and I will stitch them together.
Just lift it without
permission.
Which
is once again another On Cinema poll. Just
it is.
Full of
it actually is. Because I was going to drop a sneakers reference instead and try and circumvent that comparison. My name is Brian, and my voice is my passport.
Yeah. And Chipe Show is the best show.
Yeah. So don't worry, I've got all the angles covered. I'm a very good audio editor.
No, but seriously, dude, thank you for being here. I mean, we have known each other for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, more than 10 years.
A long time.
And it's so, I love that we're still, we're still in touch and doing stuff together. It's the best. So
that's the important thing, isn't it? The two things. We're still in touch because, that was nebulous at the beginning. And secondly, that we are still doing stuff because life is weird and odd and no one really knows the path they're going to go on, and some started early and some fall into it, and I feel like I fell into this and I fell into Cheap Show, and I'm very proud of our mucky stupid podcast, but I'm also very happy that the people I've met along the way are still considered to be friends. So thank you, and thank you both actually, because it's nice to be on a podcast where I could just chill and be myself and not be rude and say spunk a lot.
And if people at home want to find you on the social medias, or can you recommend a specific episode of your show, or should they just jump?
You know what? This is the problem. This is the curse.
Episode 1 with Brian.
Well, there's that one because that's interesting because that was when we were doing the live stuff. So there's an audience and it's filmed and recorded in a pub. But Cheap Show's interesting because we get bored very easily with our format, and so one week it might be just me and him eating weird stuff or playing with cheap things. And then the next week, it's a full-on adventure, like we did a Die Hard episode where terrorists took over our podcast. And so we had to fight these terrorists to get our characters back. And then there's one episode where we did the Winky documentary, which I remember talking about, which is a 3-hour proper documentary. And then there's an episode where we did Your Envision, which Brian was involved in, where we get our listeners to send in.
Both times.
Yeah, both times.
Did he drink his piss again?
No, I mean, I'm saving that for the last episode.
No. Sorry. I did, but I didn't discuss it.
Yeah, is a fine line. So it all depends. We have so many different formats and genres in the show. So some are more character heavy, some are more plot heavy, some are like game shows, some are like documentaries, some are when we go out and about with a microphone and just go for long walks and have adventures. It depends on what you fancy, but I kind of always start with episode 100 because that's our live show. And then after that, it's kind of a suck it and see. And then by that point, all the characters start coming in and the plot lines and the bits and bobs. So I don't know. It's hard. Find a title. And if you like it, then go for it. It's a hard sell. It's my own fault.
No, well, the best stuff, I honestly, I comedically, like we've been talking about several times, I find that all of my favorite stuff is a hard sell. And that is exactly what makes it my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a compliment. Not a dig.
At least I hope so. And it's now the quote I'm using for our next round of PR before we get to 300. Because 300 is going to be a huge live show. We've got this big, 600-seater venue, which is huge for us. And, we're going to try and fill it out and put on a show to end all shows.
Yeah.
Spoilers, I'm going to die at the end. Every time we do a live show of anything, whether it's Twitch or live, I have to find a way to die at the end, and I've got a good one this year.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Awesome.
Well, we look forward to your death.
Me too. It's role play for a happier existence. No, all is well. Keep smiling. Oh.
That's that's a much better end to the show than we typically do. But I will say, if you people happen to enjoy wearing things on your body, we're gonna fix that. We've got some merch coming that's really bad.
Oh.
It's
so good. We already bought a URL just for this merch. That's how poor a choice it is. That's how much we're going all in on a new merch line.
In my professional career, I've written some strange and embarrassing emails, but I think I'm setting some new records with this merch. So just so you know, it's coming soon.
Yep.
And
So
that's
if I
the
buy
end
any
of
of
the
this stuff,
Coming
podcast.
real soon.
do I have to call myself Dr. Paul Gannon? You know, just so I can protect myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's
Cool.
all coming
All right, I'm
soon.
in. I am in. As long as it's got 3 speeds, I am in.
Oh, it definitely has 3 speeds.
All right, is that at the end of the show? Did we do
Yeah,
it?
that's it. Bye. I'm actually, good. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Layden, do you have any catchphrases you want to say?
I already said all my things that I was going to say. I was trying to do the thing, and it's the end of the episode right now. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I talk a lot, so I apologise.
Yeah.
I'm pretty gobby.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, bye. Am I still here?
Late Night is produced by Brian Wecht, Leighton Gray, and Jarek Centeno. Follow us on Twitter at Leighton Night, on Instagram at Leighton_Night, or email us at LeightonNight@gmail.com. Also, if you want to buy some merch, which you do, go to merch.leightonnight.com.